Hello and welcome to the program. The front line in eastern Ukraine is reaching the Azov Sea. Since the beginning of the year, tensions are rising in the waters of the Azov Sea, with the Russian fleets multiplying provocations aimed at the Ukrainian fleet. So how can Ukraine resist to a potential invasion of its maritime borders? Now joining me on this topic is Irakli Janashiya, expert of national security and defense of the Ukrainian Institute of the Future. Hello and thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you.
So first question for the viewers to understand, as of today, what's the current situation?
Well, disregarding what is currently told by Minister of Defense and General Staff, the situation is not that good. I mean, it's actually a full-scale blockade and invasion of Azov Sea. And if what General Staff and MOD will go on doing, which is currently just neglecting and telling that everything is fine and just keep the situation and it is stable, then eventually we will lose Azov Sea as a toll, as a part of Ukrainian Sea, for you to understand. And of course we will lose Mariupol and Berdyansk as ports region.
So the situation is pretty serious right now.
Yes, it's pretty there currently.
Now, why is the Azov Sea so strategic for Russia?
For Russia, it's so strategic because of two moments, one of which is, well, also we are telling that Ukraine is not in war with Russia, but we have to admit that Ukraine is Russian enemy. Yeah. So depriving Ukraine of exiting to the sea and depriving Ukraine of to ports is very important in a war, as a war method. If you have ever seen of principle of anaconda, never heard of such a...
this idea of surrounding...
Surrounding and cutting off the ports. Then you don't have to make a single shoot to make the country fall apart. So the same can be done with Ukraine. If it will be deprived of Odessa and Nikolaev ports, and eventually maybe 4 years and Ukraine will fall apart, because economically it will stagnate.
So the idea is to completely cut off any access to the sea.
Yes, and of course we have to understand that it's also supporting the image of Russia in eyes of Russians. So they have to prove that Azov Sea and Crimea is 100% Russian territory. And nowadays our goal is to do everything from what we can to show against it. Azov Sea is also Ukrainian territory, and passing through the Kerch Channel is our right, which we, by the way, have done not so long ago. Now,
why is it happening now? Well, there has been some turmoil, let's say in DNR, in Luhansk. Why is suddenly, eyes are now on the Azov Sea? Is it linked? Are these events linked?
We have to start them from a bit of a beginning. The story has happened, if I'm not mistaken, in much of this year with the situation of the Nord fisher boat, which was
taken hostage.
Was taken by Ukraine. And this was quite a bit of a heat on Russians' face, and they didn't want to tolerate this, and they responded on this like that, which seemed to be very successful, as they simply, bit by bit, simply started to increase force in this direction. And yeah, we just allowed this.
So would you say that for Russia it is kind of cheaper and more efficient to send a fleet in the Azov Sea than just giving money and nurturing Donbass, Russian-led forces in Donbass?
Yeah, 100% sure.
So it is a strategic move and an economic move.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about this idea of not ignoring the threat of the Russian fleet.
Yeah.
Is the Ukrainian fleet strong enough, as for now, to resist any kind of...
Well, Ukrainian fleet, as 4 months ago, was just 10 simple vessels that were, well, frankly speaking, these vessels were not even strong enough to sustain a 2-degree scale storm in Azov Sea, which occurs quite often. So if something occurs during the storms and they simply want to go far from shore, or if they will simply go, they will sink. Nowadays we have enforcement there. It's adding 2 more vessels Gurza, Ukrainian, and 2 more vessels Kentaur. And we're waiting, and by the way, I forgot to tell about events that happened just several days ago. Intrusion of, one of them is cutter, and second was actually a commander center base and a repairment dock, which can be removed from one point to another, which was stationed currently in Mariupol, and this everything can be united in one boat called Donbass 500. Without this, if just one of the cutters of Ukraine just sank or broke, then it will be sank or broke for sure, and there will be no chance of returning it back.
How can NATO, the rest of Western partners, in this special situation of the Azov Sea, can help Ukraine without triggering an open conflict and with other forces in this area?
Don't want to be a very dear person, but the thing that has done United States giving us for free 2 vessels would be perfect. It would be repeated once again. I mean, we are extra needed in more vessels. I mean, Russian fleet outnumbers us, and I'm not even talking about the quality of their ship, which is way more better than ours. The quantity is 3 times or 4 times more than ours. So the things that we need, the 10 vessels that we have currently is barely enough to make the guarding the coast of the Azov Sea, Ukrainian part of it at least. So we need more ships to, for example, convoy the trade ships that are currently blockaded by Russian forces, which simply stops or will stop in the near future the economic of Mariupol and Berdyansk, Mariupol region, Donetsk region. I mean the Mariupol.
All this.
Yeah. So yeah.
Now, in general, and just a general review and to conclude this interview, how do you see the potential outcomes of what's going to happen maybe in the like 5, 10 months, a year?
Regarding Mariupol, currently we have the situation when captains, I mean foreign captains that are delivering goods and shipments toward Mariupol are already denying to conclude new agreements and contracts with Ukrainian part, and they are simply finishing those contracts that are currently they have, but don't want to conclude new ones. So just imagine Mariupol with empty ports. So it will be an economically depressive region. To cope with this, we need to as much as possible increase financial budget of Mariupol region. Also, in 5-10 months, the sea situation, if we will continue the politics of nothing, everything is stable, then step by step, Russian forces will feel punishless, or how do you say it? Absolutely immune and free to do everything. So,
well, thank you for this overview. It was a pleasure to have you in the studio today to explain the situation. That was Irakli Janashiya, expert on national security and defense at the Ukrainian Institute of the Future, speaking about the situation in the Azov Sea. Thank you for watching the program and stay tuned for the rest.